this is BBC's report of yesterday's demonstrations and protests. Tens of thousands joined Palestinian marches and sit-ins across the UK. I went to Trafalgar Square, and I would have thought there were at least 100,000 in that particular spot. So, forgetting all the other ones, why do you think it's really weird? Because sometimes they downplay the importance of the protest by saying there's not many there, and then on other occasions they say, "Oh, it's really bad having these protests. We shouldn't have any more." I mean, what's are they really worried about these protests? Do you think?
I think they're really worried about it because, they've had a fantasy, and this fantasy has been reinforced since Corbyn, that they can control the whole narrative and that they can get away with lies and deceit. And suddenly they come against something where actually they're not actually succeeding. And it's not just happening here. Look at Germany. Germany, yesterday, the march in Berlin, it was packed. The march is banned. Look at Macron banning marches. The streets are filled. Washington, one of the biggest marches ever. In the United States, more than 1,000 Jews have been arrested for marching for Palestine. They can't actually stop it. And so they're going in two different ways, and they're going in two different ways in many ways as well. Because first of all, you're supposed to believe that Jews here, notice, you can sometimes call Jews all one thing, and be anti-Semitic and just have a monolith. All Jews are scared of going to London, to the centre of towns. Well, it's not all Jews. There are a huge amount of Jews, anti-Zionist Jews, huge amount of them are actually marching. And can we just, as well, can we stop giving any quarter to these apologists for Israel who make their feeling of discomfort the center of every damn conversation? Part of it, this is kind of a pathological response. If anybody has ever done psychoanalysis or practice it, you'll know that there's something called transference. If you think that you have behaved really badly, really aggressively, really awfully to somebody else, you can actually transfer that feeling onto other people. There's no anti-Zionist Jews that I know are scared of going into central London, including identifying themselves as Jews. But today as well, heard this crap from Oliver Dowden about this shock. How come people aren't coming on the streets like they did for Black Lives Matter? These people, they haven't got a clue what's going on. They actually don't understand that Black Lives Matter identifies with an oppressed group. And what we have here is that Zionism has now become, through its own actual motivations, its own actual strategies, become identified with white supremacy, the far right, and the establishment. Of course, people aren't going to come out in mass to support white supremacy. We have enough white supremacists in our media. We don't need to come out on the street to support them. So we've got to be there. We've got to come out. We've got to make it bigger. They are going to start trying to ban us. We have got to be there in mass and actually stop them, refuse them. And of course, I'm just going to say one last thing. Of course, they're scared, because this is the issue which shows the power of solidarity, which shows the power of the left. And it's come from the streets, hasn't come from Parliament. Parliament, as John said, has failed us in this. It's come from the streets, it's in the streets, and Israel are the best propagandists for our movement that we've had for some time.
Now, Jackie, this is the last story. This is coming up all the time, from the river to the sea chant. Says this is the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. Met police advisor led from river to sea chant. Lawyer who chairs official advisory body for Scotland Yard instigated offensive slogan. What's your take on that chant, and why is it such a big? Why they make such a big noise about it?
I mean, you know, I'm fed up of this offensive thing. You know, there's people dying, there's kids being burnt to death, and we're worried about offending some people using a chant that is actually being used by both sides. I mean, just recently, if you remember, Netanyahu went to the UN with a big map. And what it showed was Israel being in control from the river to the sea. I'm not even going to discuss why they don't like it, because this is another example of pure and utter propaganda and the way that they incrementally use different ways to try and silence what they don't like. It's exactly the same as Karen Pollock of the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust explaining why it's okay for some Jews to compare what's happening now and how they feel in their safe little rooms, that what they're experiencing in London is just like they experienced in the Holocaust, but somehow everybody else can't, even though Holocaust Memorial Day specifically says no one should do it. I have asked Karen Pollock of Holocaust Memorial Day repeatedly to define whether this genocide is going to be commemorated in next year's commemoration of Holocaust. Of course, she hasn't answered, because all of these things, all of these organizations are just now fronts, and they're fronts of propaganda. And that's why we see the ambassador of Israel, I mean, it was like a clown. I felt kind of embarrassed for him, really, wearing the yellow star as a victim of genocide into the UN. I mean, Israel, I mean, honestly, there's part of me that just want to say, just keep doing this, you Israeli fanatics, because you are helping me and my case just so much. And then yesterday, I think it was yesterday, a minister from the Israeli government, not you know, a member of their parliament, but a minister from their government, saying, you know, we're not going to rule out putting a nuclear bomb into the concentration camp that they call Gaza. And nobody here, I didn't hear any comment on that on any of our Sunday programs. Nobody objected to that at all. So I'm not interested in their propaganda. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.